This is going to be a video going over the things you need to get started anodizing, the basic necessities. The biggest thing is you're going to need a bath of sulfuric acid. This is a Tupperware bin. I started off with a 5-gallon bucket, but it wasn't quite big enough for what I needed to do. And a power supply. So for the sulfuric acid, a lot of people use battery acid, but it's expensive and diluted. What I do is I go to Walmart and buy sulfuric acid drain cleaner, which is here, Clean Out brand. It's 98% sulfuric acid, and it's like $5 for a bottle. So if you do one of these bottles to 1 gallon of distilled water, it works out perfectly. They have a sulfuric acid drain cleaner at Lowe's. I forget the brand name, but don't buy that because it has a purple dye in it, and it'll make your parts come out of the Anobath purple, like already pre-dyed purple. But this stuff is great. You can also get battery acid. I can't speak much on that because I haven't tried it much, but it's expensive. It's diluted. It's only like 25% acid or something along those lines, if I remember correctly. Anyway, so the power supply, I have a very cheap Chinese power supply. I'll put a link in the description to some sort of similar power supply. It does go up to 10 amps, which is necessary for what I do. I think a lot of the cheap power supplies that are like $40, $50 only go up to 5 amps, which doesn't quite cut it for what I do. So the 10 amp one, I think this one was like $55, $60, somewhere around there. I'll put a link in the description. So those are the two main important things to get started. Then you need to have clean parts. So to clean your parts before anodizing, I use an ultrasonic cleaner, but this is not necessary. Dawn dish soap in a sink and really scrub the heck out of them will suffice just fine. But if you eventually get to the point where you're tired of washing parts, ultrasonic cleaner works good. Just make sure it's not heating while your parts are in there, or it can cause pitting and raw aluminum. So your parts are clean, you scrub them, you put them in the anodizing bath. That's the most important part there is your bath. You got to strip your anode parts. To strip them, you put them in lye. There's some parts in lye here. The lye you can buy at Walmart too. There's a lye drain cleaner. It's like a little tub, and it's a powder. You can mix that with distilled water. I did 4 gallons of distilled water to 1 tub of lye, and it works out great. I stripped my parts for about 30 minutes, and it's perfect. After you pull the parts out of the lye, they're going to have smut on them. They're going to look a little dark. Then you want to put them in hydrochloric acid, not sulfuric acid, to strip the smut off of the parts. And then once you pull them out of there, they'll be completely clean, raw aluminum. That is one of the only chemicals that you can't really source locally. That you'll have to either buy from an anodizing supplier like Caswell, or you can get it on eBay for like laboratory purposes. And then, so you strip your parts, you clean them, you anodize them, then you need to dye them. So I have my dyes here. These are Caswell dyes. I started off using RIT dyes. RIT dyes work good. They're cheap, but you have to experiment with them a little bit. What I found is that some RIT dye colors work really good, and some RIT dyes don't really work at all. If you can spend the extra money, I would get anodizing dyes. I started off with Caswell. It's very expensive, and shipping time takes forever. But it's pretty good for the most part. I have recently tried 2 different colors of the Amazon dye, which comes as a powder, and I was really surprised with that. I think I'm going to probably switch over to that when I need to. So the dyes, you can use RIT or an anodizing dye, but you need dye tanks that'll fit your part. I use these little cereal buckets. I do mainly paintball guns. The paintball gun fits perfectly in there. So then once you dye, you need to seal. So you can use your stove in your kitchen, but your wife may complain. What I have is a hot plate and a big pot. So you can use distilled water, and I would recommend starting off with distilled water, but I've noticed that your color will wash out a little bit if you just use distilled water. Caswell sells a chemical for sealing, which you can get. It's kind of nasty stuff. I wouldn't, if you're going to use this sealant. Caswell Anodizing Sealant. If you're going to use a sealant and not just distilled water, I would make sure you're doing it outside because it's pretty nasty stuff, and I'm pretty sure it has a warning about being carcinogenic. So that's how you seal them when you're done. So that's basically all you need. There's other various things like heaters I have. aquarium bubblers for agitation, power multimeter for determining if something is pre-anodized. You're going to need a crap ton of distilled water. It's probably the only expendable thing that you use is you will just use a whole bunch of distilled water, and you got to use distilled. When I first started off, I tried to skimp and just use tap water for a lot of things, and you run into all sorts of issues. So just buy distilled water or buy one of those cheap reverse osmosis machines and use that, but you need distilled water. Having a couple thermometers is nice to have. pH meter is nice to have for your dyes. You'll need various things. I've got inks and stuff, but that's basically it. To get started, you're going to want lye, a bath of sulfuric acid, and a power supply is basically all you need to get started. The other things can come as you progress. So I'll put some stuff down in the description, and yeah, that's it.